Good afternoon, everybody. This is Carly Kovacic with the National Weather Service in Peachtree City. This is our weekly weather briefing for the week of March 31st, 2016. And of highlight is the severe weather and heavy rain flash flooding threat through Friday. Let's start by taking a look at the regional radar. This is valid around 10:30 this morning. Of highlight is the widespread light to moderate rain across a majority of Alabama. This area of showers is going to continue to push east through the afternoon across our area. You can see the leading edge of it is starting to begin to affect portions of West Georgia, mainly northwest Georgia. And also of note, to the west over in Mississippi, you can see the development of a couple thunderstorms across the northern portion of the state. And if you're interested in the weather today, that is where the severe threat is most likely. So depending on the evolution of that through this afternoon and evening, that's going to have an effect on what we see later today into the overnight hours and then into Friday. So you may be asking yourself, what is causing all of this? Well, I'm trying to highlight that in this slide. So this is showing you the simulated radar reflectivity, basically showing you one model that has initialized quite well this morning. So in other words, it's representing what we're currently seeing on radar better than the other models that we're looking at. So taking a look on the left-hand side, around noon today, we're expecting the cold front to be located well to our west, draping across southeastern Missouri into Arkansas. That leaves us in what we call the warm sector, or an area where there's a warm and humid air mass in place, so that may help to develop some thunderstorms across the southeast later today. Now, over on the right is the potential cold frontal position around 5 a.m. on Friday. So you could see that the front is going to be approaching the state overnight tonight, and there very well could be a line of strong to severe thunderstorms along it across North Georgia, and then there might be some isolated activity out ahead of the front. Now let's start to take things in steps. Let's start with the forecast for this afternoon, which is Thursday. On the left, I've shown a simulated radar reflectivity image, again of a model that is performing better than a bunch of other models that we look at. So you can see that it's showing for this afternoon more widespread showery activity. There should be some embedded thunder with this as well, but the severe weather threat with this is going to be very low through about sunset. So any activity that we do see, so any isolated thunder, we're expecting the biggest threats to be locally heavy rainfall and some brief wind gusts, maybe 30 to 40 miles an hour possible. Nothing severe. And again, with the locally heavy rainfall, we're expecting rainfall amounts generally up to an inch, so the flash flooding threat is very minor through this afternoon. Now we're going to spice things up a little bit. This is the forecast for tonight, Thursday night going into Friday. On the left, the image I've posted is a simulated radar reflectivity image. Again, don't take this verbatim, but this is just to give you an idea of what could possibly happen overnight tonight. So this is valid around 3 o'clock in the morning. So, looking at the right, what are we expecting? A line of strong to severe storms along a cold front. And as I stated in one of the first slides, a few storms are possible ahead of the cold front, and these could be strong to marginally severe. The main threats with this is going to be damaging wind, looking at gusts to 40 to 60 miles an hour. This could down some trees and power lines and maybe cause some minor structural damage. We could also see some brief tornadoes with this activity. Could see hail up to an inch, possibly even a little bit larger. We've got some very steep mid-level lapse rates, which is very favorable for hail formation. And also, this is where we're going to introduce that isolated flash flooding threat, looking at rainfall amounts overnight tonight to generally top off around an inch. This graphic just shows you where the highest potential for severe weather overnight tonight is going to be across the state. This is a forecast that's issued by the Storm Prediction Center. And for those of you unfamiliar, the Storm Prediction Center is a branch of the National Weather Service that focuses mainly on providing a broad-scale severe weather forecast. And then the local offices, for instance ours, then we take that forecast and we make some adjustments and provide more finer detail to it. So this is the forecast issued by the Storm Prediction Center for overnight tonight, and we actually agree very well with this. So the slight to enhanced risk that you see indicates the potential for more widespread severe weather as compared to the marginal. So you can see the highest threat for severe weather is going to be across North Georgia tonight, particularly across northwest Georgia as that line of storms begins to move through. So the box on the right is the same box that I showed in the previous slide. So if you just want to browse that one more time, it's just showing you what we're expecting as well as the threats. So I want you to keep in mind what we just talked about as far as severe weather potential Thursday night. Now this slide is showing you the forecast Friday morning through Friday night. And again, I'm showing you a Storm Prediction Center graphic indicating where the more widespread severe weather is expected. And again, we agree with them pretty well with this forecast. I wouldn't be surprised if they end up pushing that slight risk more east and northeast into South Carolina before tomorrow, but we'll see what happens. But right now, got a slight risk across the majority of central Georgia with a marginal risk up towards the northern portion of the Atlanta metro into some of the mountain counties. So, what are we expecting on Friday? Well, that cold front with the line of storms along it is going to be moving probably somewhere along the I-85 corridor in the morning. And at some point it's going to start to slow down a little bit. The cold front itself is going to be a focus for additional showers and thunderstorms on Friday. And the air mass out ahead of the front across central Georgia is going to become very favorable for the development of thunderstorms as well, particularly after 10 o'clock or so, as we start to get that surface heating. The severe threat is going to diminish late Friday evening, say around 9 p.m., give or take a couple hours. But there's probably still going to be some shower and thunderstorm activity around that time, which could still produce some locally heavy rainfall and maybe some gusty winds. But the severe threat, like I said, should be diminishing around that time. The primary threats for Friday is going to be damaging wind, 55 to 60 mile an hour likely. This is going to down some trees and power lines. Could also create some minor structural damage. Still looking at hail up to an inch. Still got some steep mid-level lapse rates out there. Brief tornadoes still possible. Looks like the threat for some weak brief tornadoes is going to be more in the morning into the early portion of the afternoon, where we have a lot of low-level shear and helicity still present. And those parameters look like they're going to diminish as we go into the afternoon, making tornado development not impossible but less likely. There exists the possibility of a secondary surge of moisture late Friday night going into early Saturday along the cold front. This cold front that we've been talking about is going to stall somewhere across central Georgia late Friday, and there's going to be a wave of low pressure that then moves along this front, and that's going to bring a secondary surge of rainfall somewhere across the area. We're not exactly sure which counties are going to be affected the most by this secondary surge, but it is likely that some additional rainfall after the severe weather threat has diminished is likely somewhere across central Georgia. So stay tuned for that. That may create some more minor flash flooding issues. So again, just stay tuned to that. A flash flood watch has been issued for a majority of north and central Georgia. And this is valid from 6 p.m. tonight, Thursday, through midnight Friday night. And with this, we are expecting the counties highlighted in green to receive somewhere between 2 to 4 inches of rainfall through Friday night. There could also be some locally higher amounts. The threats are going to be isolated flash flooding, mainly along creeks and small streams, and then across the urban areas where we tend to get more runoff, and along any clogged storm drains as well. Shown here is the forecast rainfall totals beginning tonight and going through early Saturday, 8 a.m. to be exact. You can see widespread rainfall across the area of at least 2 inches. Looks like central Georgia will see the most out of this, with our southern counties receiving possibly over 4 inches before all is said and done. And again, on the left, I'm just highlighting the same things that I just emphasized in the last slide, looking at mainly isolated flash flooding, looking at the creeks and streams to flood the most, and any runoff in the urban areas. I finally have some good news for you guys. Once we make it through Saturday, looks like we've got a dry forecast on tap Sunday through Tuesday. Alright, it's time to recap. Severe thunderstorms are possible beginning tonight and lasting through late Friday. We are not expecting severe weather this afternoon. We'll mainly see widespread showers with some embedded thunderstorms. The main threats with the severe weather beginning tonight is going to be damaging wind, large hail, heavy rain, and some brief tornadoes. I do want to emphasize the uncertainty in this forecast. This is really going to be highly dependent on what evolves today over Mississippi, western Tennessee, and northern Alabama. So if you're interested in weather, I encourage you to follow along with what is developing throughout the afternoon hours to our west, and that is going to determine the evolution of our weather pattern through Friday. So I just wanted to emphasize that before we end this briefing. So continuing on with the summary, we do have flash flood watch that has been issued for a majority of north and central Georgia. That's valid tonight through midnight on Friday for a widespread 2 to 4 inches of rainfall. The possibility of a secondary surge of moisture looks likely late Friday from the Gulf of Mexico, so we're going to monitor that for additional flash flooding issues. And then finally, we will see a dry period Sunday through Tuesday. Feel free to report severe weather to us. We highly encourage it, and it actually helps us out a lot more than you may realize. There are several ways to contact us, and that's going to be through our webpage or social media. We've got a Facebook and Twitter page, and when there's weather going on, we usually have a person dedicated to social media, so feel free to send us any reports. That's going to conclude this week's weather briefing. Just got to get through tonight, tomorrow, and Saturday, and then again we'll be smooth sailing at least through the middle portion of next week. All right, have a great week.